Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. It is Hump Day, one of my favorite days of the week. I am Dr. Jeff Horowitz, and I'm enjoying my Hump Day with a slightly label damaged bottle of Davis Family Vineyard Chardonnay. Very special night because I don't often drink Chardonnays, but tonight's a Chardonnay kind of night. And it's from one of my favorite vineyards, Davis Family Vineyards out in Healdsburg. And the cool thing about them for my North Carolina friends is that they now have a tasting room in Highlands, North Carolina, which is really a cool thing for a small to medium production family-owned winery from out in Sonoma County. So just a really cool thing. But anyway, welcome to Humpday Happy Hour. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. We are live. We're over your favorite beverage, as usual. We've got a great show tonight. Eric Swarvar from Midwest Dental is going to be joining us. Our great friends at ADA, the American Independent Dental Alliance, and Midwest Dental are actually sponsoring tonight's episode. They are also our educational partner through ADA Education. And so we're really excited to talk about Eric. Funny story about him is he and Dr. Chad Duplantis have had a longstanding relationship through dentistry, of course. Absolutely nothing going on there. I don't want to start any weird rumors. But the two of them have had a longstanding relationship where Chad has been a customer and he has gotten to see Eric grow with Midwest Dental and has really gotten to experience the kind of service that one can get from a family owned and from an independently owned dental merchandise provider and dental equipment provider. And so it's really been a great experience. And Eric's going to talk tonight about startups in the dental space. I think that might be a really great topic for some of our younger dentists that may be listening tonight. But as you know, this is a little show we do called Humpday Happy Hour on Dentists in the Know. I'm joined by two of my best friends in the world. They are great dentists, they are practice owners, and they are educators, just like I am. And the three of us together have become Dentists in the Know. So I'm going to bring JB up. Chad is actually working out some technical difficulties with our guest for tonight. Oh, there he is. He must have worked it out.
We got this shit worked out.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, Chad, you're all over it once you finally got on the problem. But
Yeah.
Anyway, how you doing, my friends? JB's fresh off a vacation with her family to Spain. So I'm not even listening to you yet, Chad. I want to hear about Spain.
Well, it wasn't, I got to really nerd out with you for a second. So actually, it was the New England, Old England, How We Got Here tour. So we started in Boston right over the 4th of July, attended a reading of the Declaration of Independence. You know me, I threw some tea in the water. I was all in on American independence. It was fantastic. And it was so fun because as we're learning a lot about American independence through the Freedom Trail and all this stuff, a lot of European countries were also very actively involved, including Spain during that time. So then we flew over the pond, if you will, to London and went north to the Cotswolds for a few days, which is really beautiful English countryside, great decompression place if you're looking for one. Great fresh food, very friendly people, walkable, just a really lovely place to be. But again, all these overlaps of American independence. Then we're in London for a bit, Old England, New England, and then made our way down to Barcelona. If you'll remember, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue out of after he was, I don't want to say bought by Spain, but basically bought by Spain to do it. He actually, as you also remember, didn't end up in America. He ended up a little bit further south of here, but
I'm picturing a Clark Griswold kind of thing of
Yeah.
you describing all this as your kids.
Kids,
So
Big
did you know
Ben,
Christopher
Parliament.
Columbus?
Barcelona. Were you on the
Barcelona.
Nina, the Pinta, or the Santa Maria?
Obviously the Nina. I would have been on the big ship, clearly. So we were there for a couple of days. That city was really fascinating. It's gritty. They want their own independence from Spain, so it's kind of interesting. They fought one war to try to get it. They didn't succeed successfully.
Yeah, how'd that pan out?
but as far as they're concerned, it did. They think of themselves as independent of Spain. They actually operate.
We got a few areas in the south that are kind of like that too.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of that spirit, They even have two sets of government. So you have all the Spanish government that would be in a large city like that, especially a large port city. But then they have their own kind of parliament and stuff that they still maintained when they were trying for their independence in the Catalan district. So it is this weird dynamic. People in Barcelona consider themselves Catalonians and not Spaniards. So you get this nice mix of cultures, which is really cool. I've never been to Spain, so that was my first time. I learned a ton about Gaudi, who is an architect, very famous architect, landscaper, artist. It was a very fascinating individual from Barcelona. So it was really neat. And, for listeners out there, when we work as hard as we do and spend so much time in the trenches with our patients every day, running practices, managing people, I cannot stress this enough. If you're parents, that you have to be incredibly intentional about taking time together and being present with one another, and make that a priority for every year, because it was really great, again, to spend time with my kids, even when they were arguing, and it was super frustrating and annoying at times. There's been a level of connection that's developed over the years of traveling and being uncomfortable when we travel and sort of pushing our boundaries together as a family, that makes us I think a better unit. I think we're much more together than we are apart. So that's my sage advice, I guess, as a parent who's raising teenagers and an almost teenager, that it became incredibly transparent to me on this trip how important it is that we carve that time. So it was great. Thanks for asking. I do now need a vacation, though, from my trip. So,
Sure.
That's how it goes.
Well, and enjoy it while you can, because, this was actually the first year that we were not able to do something all together as a family. Joel was moving back, starting his rotations. Luke's off in Buffalo. I had a few moving parts going on over the last couple of weeks and months. And so, I that is some really great advice. But wonder how our friend Chad is doing.
Who's Chad?
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked. I don't know. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah.
He's so whiny.
Yeah, you are. You're very needy sometimes, Chad.
Actually, I'm laughing because I texted my wife and I asked her to bring me my water. And it turns out it was right in front of the computer where I couldn't see it. And she comes walking in here and she's looking at me like, "What do you want me to bring you?" And I'm like, "Just bring me my water that's actually right in front of me."
Would you like some toast?
Yeah. So we have toast. I like toast. I like poopies too.
Tell us about you. What's going on
with me?
Yeah.
Same stuff, different day. Just a lot of living the dream. Just maybe the dream's living me. I don't know. We've got a new associate in the office. She is doing just a fantastic job. It's been really funny because she graduated, maybe a month ago, and got her license maybe 2 weeks ago. No, she graduated at the end of May, but I'll tell you, just watching her confidence grow over the first week that she's been in the office and kind of grow into the routine that we've built in our office and the connections that we have with our patients, it's been a lot of fun. It's been really cool. I was listening to her today and I was like, in the past week, she's grown 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's awesome.
You can't underestimate the power of mentorship. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a, you can watch someone truly grow in a matter of hours just with good conversation, I think. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And can I
Well, this
say
was our
something before we get
conversation
started
last
tonight?
week, right? As we were talking about new associates and everything. And yeah, I'm really happy for you. I think that's going to be a great situation.
Yeah. Hey, can I say something before we get started tonight?
You could say anything you want.
StreamYard does not suck tonight.
No.
I
And I am
agree.
hardwired in the new Elm Street studio.
It's kind of crazy because we were talking like last week, JB, like every third sentence, I would have to throw in and StreamYard sucks. I was so frustrated with them because everything on our computer screen showed that we were on Wi-Fi. Everything on our computer showed that we were hardwired. Tonight, I don't see the Wi-Fi thing. I don't see any struggling. So maybe they got it together. So kudos to StreamYard tonight.
Golf clap.
Small wins.
Small win. That's right.
Oh, and speaking
We'll
of golf clap, the British Open starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or the Open Championship.
The Open.
The Open. Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't want to stick around
Northern
for that.
Ireland. It's going to be fantastic. Who y'all got? Who y'all got?
Who do I want? I mean, I think Scotty is just so good, but now you're on home turf, right? So McElroy should
McElroy,
show
that's
up.
what I was
He
gonna
should
say,
show up.
Yeah.
I got Scotty, but I think it's going to be McElroy. I hate to say it.
I don't know. I mean,
it's his to lose. It's home turf.
Right.
Sure.
That's
But
what
he
I
looked
think
great at the
too.
Masters, and then the following tournament, he didn't look great at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, at the U.S. Open though, he was acting like a child. So let's hope
Yeah.
that he gets that out
A
of his system.
petulant child.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, guess what?
I digress.
We have a great guest who is dressed to the nines tonight, by the way.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to talk with him because he's just such a super guy. And I know, Chad, you've worked with him for a long time. We're going to talk about managing dental startups. And this is a guy who has been an integral part of Midwest Dental. Eric has worked with Chad for a long time, and pardon me. And I
Chardonnay got you all back
yeah,
down.
got me. I'm a little bit close. I think we're going to learn a whole lot about startups and what it takes in order to really be successful and independent in dentistry, which is exactly what our partner ADA stands for and what Midwest Dental stands for as well. So excited for that. But JB, do you have some news for us?
Oh my gosh, always.
And
Always.
I actually got a preview of this. So I'm excited for the news tonight, guys.
Well, I get to put a little personal spin on it, which makes me even happier. So
even better.
All right. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get some of the big stuff out of the way because we want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned here. And as you know, I am often ridiculed by my fellow colleagues that my news is very depressing. So let's just get the boring and depressing right out of the gate. Then we can move on to the fun and entertaining. So, a couple of things that are really important for our audience to pay attention to, especially if this is an area of interest to you. The first is a call to action. If you would like an opportunity to voice your concerns about the change of availability and accessibility for oral fluoride supplementation and prescriptions, the open comment period from the federal government is through July 16th. You can find that link through the FDA website. They are open to receiving particularly comments from practitioners who are currently writing prescriptions for ingestible fluorides to understand practice philosophies, presentations, risk management, and why those fluoride supplements are being prescribed so that they can take those things into consideration when looking at whether or not to pull this pharmaceutical drug off the market. So again, that open comment period is July 16th. If you would like to get your voice heard as a practitioner who is writing prescriptions for fluoride, Please take advantage of that. If you don't, you have no one to blame but yourself when they take your privilege away. Another interesting update, and I have to thank the ADA for this particular lobbying effort. They went straight to MetLife. We can specifically talk about this insurance company because it was of high concern of the ADA after receiving several member complaints that MetLife would recoup expenses or recoup payments from other practitioners. So let me explain what that means. If I were to provide a service to a patient in my practice who is a MetLife patient and I submit for payment for those services, the insurance company could take that money away from me because they wanted to, because they were due that money to Jeff, let's just say, and they decided the patient wasn't eligible for that service from Jeff. So instead of going back to Jeff to recoup the money that had been paid to Jeff for services rendered by that MetLife patient, they would come and then take it out of the very next claim that was being paid, regardless of who the practitioner is. Now, you can appreciate the accounting nightmare that starts to create when we're recouping expenses or recouping monies being paid from practitioners that aren't even in the same practice. So this has been going on quite often. In fact, we were just discussing a case in my practice today. MetLife is set to change this particular policy. It is expected to be in full effect by the end of the year. If they need to recoup money for a claim that should not have been paid for a patient who wasn't eligible for that service, whatever the happenstance might be, they must go back to that practitioner or that practice to recoup that money, which may mean a paper check back from the practice, as opposed to withholding it from the upcoming payments on behalf of that patient. So I think that's a fantastic move. Thank you to the ADA for stepping in and voicing that concern. Thank you to MetLife for recognizing this is a stupid policy and that it should have never been in place in the first place. And that maybe finally we're going to get some resolution for these idiotic policies that continue to be put in place by dental insurance companies. So really excited to see that type of movement. Now, I wanted to give you an update now that the big, beautiful bill has been passed and we're starting to see some of the more intricate details of that bill. There were some big wins, particularly for the small business owners, dental practices specifically. We had talked quite a bit about the SALT Act and about the change in the ability to pass through local and state tax. Luckily, that was pushed up to $40,000. So I think for the majority of practitioners, except maybe a very few elite folks in New York and California, this should allow most individuals in the U.S. to pass through in full their state and local tax liabilities so that they don't get double taxed on that money. So that was a good update that we saw that was finalized in its final version of the bill. A couple of other things that we saw come through that. We're seeing that 20% small business tax deduction will stay permanent, restoration of 100% bonus depreciation, new domestic tax, research tax incentives, the preservation of 21% corporate tax rate, and then, of course, that $40,000 individual and state local tax deduction. Now, one big negative, I think, that might impact some of our colleagues had to do on the loan side of education. The Grad Plus loan program and cap lifetime financial aid amounts for undergraduate and graduate students did limit those loan repayment options. And so we may see for the first time some restriction and some inability for individuals to receive funding for dental education. We'll see what that really looks like in real time. But the concern is that could ultimately impact workforce shortages. But I think overall, especially for small business owners, dentists who are operating independently, this should be a very good bill for their overall tax burden. All right. So as promised, one entertaining story. Now, this happened right before I left on vacation, which was super frustrating to me because I love these kind of stories. I love to go on the news and talk about interesting pop culture. Well, LeAnn Rimes had a bit of a dental mishap a couple weeks ago at the end of June. She was performing live on stage singing one of her most famous songs, and out pops her front bridge. Now, she immediately rushed off stage to try to assess the situation, slid it back into position, went back out, and as any true professional would do, the show went on. About every third to fourth line in any song, she was seen having to push the bridge back into position. Now, why does this story ring so real for me? Because I too, while not LeAnn Rimes and certainly not on a public stage, have suffered a similar fate. I'm missing congenitally 7 and 10. And it was not that long ago at a Chicago midwinter that I managed to lose one of my Pontics out of my Invisalign tray into the sink of the Chicago hotel. Now, lucky for me, Chicago midwinter has a myriad of vendors available who were very nice. Voco was very nice to offer me composite and a curing light so that I could restore my front tooth and re-enter the workforce and meet with folks that day. But I can feel the pain, the embarrassment, but also as a professional that the show must go on. And with that, that's the news.
I tell you, there's just such. I mean, we both have a connection with LeAnn Rimes.
Yeah, obviously she knows me by name.
Yeah, true story.
I have a connection with LeAnn Rimes. I listened to a Garth Brooks album one time.
Yeah.
Almost the same.
Yeah,
almost the same. Yeah,
almost the same. Yeah, just about it. So, great news segment. Absolutely fantastic. It wasn't quite as good as mine last week.
I know, but it's good to be back.
I do have to say this because, one of our favorite things to do is ridicule Chad.
Uh-huh.
He did a pretty good job.
You know what? A blind squirrel find a nut every now and then.
Yeah, no, I just got to put that out there. I got to give props where it's due.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right.
But
it's just good to know you can go on vacation. And the whole place won't fall apart.
With that said, you do still have job security, though.
Yes.
Yeah, you have job security. For sure.
I should have done it in Spanish.
I should have.
Chad.
Yo.
Why don't you introduce our guest? He's been sitting down there, and his clothes are just way too great to not.
As I say, though, I can't walk and chew gum, so you're going to have to bring him up.
I'll bring him up.
So anyhow, this guy is just such a great dude. I'm so excited to introduce who I call a good friend, Eric Swarvar. He is not my rep, but I've known him for a long time. There was one of the things I'll never forget is that several years ago, we had our rep that we've had for a number of years had some health issues, and he had to be out for a while. And without question, Eric just added double duty to his schedule, took over Scott's territory, showed up every time that Scott was supposed to show up. Jeff, are you having trouble?
No, someone else is hitting the switch. I think JB was.
But no, Jeff, but Eric showed up without question every scheduled day that Scott was supposed to. He sat down, he listened to our needs, listened to our concerns, took care of everything that we had. I'll never forget it. Midwest is honored to have him. He is a proud graduate of Stephen F. Austin State University, which is in Nacogdoches, Texas. He lives just north of here in Flower Mound, Texas. We used to ride and race bikes together. We've spent a lot of time together, and it's just an honor to have him on the show. Beyond that, he's an all-star sales representative for Midwest Dental, always fighting with my rep for #1 in the company. I think I could say that fair and square. You may have some competition coming up, though. Just an all-around good dude. And he's very knowledgeable about dental startups. And I think that's really what we're going to talk about tonight, because I'm blown away with his knowledge in that arena. So, Eric, thanks for being here, man.
Can I just say, Spalding, get your foot off the boat?
Yeah. Hey, Eric, if you're not muted, then we can't hear you. So I don't know what really happened, but it's cool. Yes, I don't know sign language, but
can't hear you. Oh, he's out again.
No.
Oh, he's back.
No, we got you.
No, now we got you again.
Perfect. You can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
All right.
Don't
Hands
touch
in the
it.
air. Don't touch
Hey,
anything.
buddy. Don't touch anything.
Well, hey, let's move the show along. I just want to address the elephant in the room, if that's okay.
Yes. What's that?
So, in my house, happy hour on Hump Day is called just Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
That's what we wear in my house on Wednesday. And I know you guys are drinking some wine, but I've got a nice little ranch water here.
Attaboy, attaboy. It's colorful. What you got in there besides Topo Chico and tequila?
Cranberry juice.
Attaboy. That's a boy. Attaboy. That's a
Just a little splash of cranberry juice. So
attaboy. Attaboy. Good job. Good job. All right.
But I was
Well
fooled
done.
by Jeff because he did tell me this was a costume party. And I think I'm the only one that showed up this way. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Good job,
Well,
Jeff.
I was this close to telling you it was Assless Chaps Day.
That's Thursday night.
That's
Yeah.
Thursday. That's right.
And a
Yeah.
different YouTube channel, God willing.
I love it. I love it. Well,
So,
I appreciate you guys having me on. Chad, I've known you for years, and I think we've even been to the stock show together before. Man, we've had some great times over the years and really enjoyed your company as a friend. And it's been great to know Jeff, yourself, and Jennifer, you as well during the Aspire events. And so I'm happy to be on this show to talk about what it takes to start a dental practice, and would love just to kind of jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So one of the things I did not mention is that you were an author. So tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write it and kind of what it's about. And then we'll just start there.
Yeah, I'm going to back up just a hair. So
I didn't ask you to, but go ahead.
Probably around 2018, I was meeting with a dentist at a coffee shop, and he was explaining to me what his project entailed. And he said that he needed equipment in about 2 weeks. And at that time, you needed about 4 weeks to order the equipment and get it in, and of course, schedule it. And so I asked him, I said, hey, where's your dental practice going? And he stood up and pointed at a dirt lot across the street. He had no understanding on what it took to build a dental practice. And so it was completely baffling to me. And so at that moment, I met with some people within my network, which was a banker, a real estate agent, an attorney, a CPA, and talked with them about putting together a seminar. And we started seminars called the 2-Hour Dental Startup. And what it was just a guidance of taking a dentist from not knowing anything about dentistry except for the clinical aspect of it, and within 2 hours, giving them a roadmap on how to start a dental practice. It's as simple as if you were 25 years old looking to buy your first house, how do you buy your first home? It's very similar as a dental practice. You need to see, are you in a financial position that you can afford to go out on your own? And a lot of younger dentists are very aware and hyper conscious of their student loan debt. And the unique aspect of that is they don't feel like they can afford a dental practice or purchase a dental practice or start a dental practice because of the student loan debt. The financial institutions already know that they're going to have student loan debt. That's already baked into the risk factor. And so they don't know that unless somebody tells them about that. And then, of course, the second part is location, location, location. Nobody wants to be the last person that moves into a highly competitive marketplace, because if you're going to spend a fortune to try to outmarket the individual across the street. And so picking the location is probably the most important part of the entire process when you start. I would love to say that the dental side and the equipment and the design is actually the most important part. It's the most impactful part as you practice. But if you're really trying to start a practice, really picking the right location is one of the most important things that you can do. And so what happened is really COVID hit and we couldn't put these seminars on anymore. And, with the state of the way our industry is, there's another big hairy elephant that's in the room that's getting a ton of attention, which is DSOs, and nobody's speaking for the independent dentist. And so I actually went on Amazon and looked up how to start a dental practice, and nothing came up. And so I took a lot of the individuals that I was working with through that process and said, hey, what are your thoughts about writing a chapter? just a chapter. I'm going to ask you to help write a book, but I just need a chapter out of you. And so basically I was able to project manage a timeline to get all this information together and compile it into a book. And so we came out with a little book called The Dental Startup. Super, super marketing creative, The Dental Startup. Mm-hmm. But what's been unique about it is we've actually sold over 1,000 copies.
That's
which
awesome.
is, in my mind, pretty amazing if you consider how many dentists are in the marketplace.
How have you seen, how long have you been working with dentists and startups?
Been doing great at it, probably, I would say 10 years. You know,
okay.
Just like anything else, you just kind of bump your way around until you really find out.
Yeah. How is it changed? I mean, I started my first practice in 2010, which was a recession era, very different even than the second one I started in 2017. Timelines were totally different. Availability of contract labor was very different. How have you seen, number one, who are the dentists that are still pursuing opening up? Like, has that demographic changed? Are they older in their years of practice, or right out the gate, has that modified at all? And how they choose location and acquisition and what they're buying, has that changed at all from, over the last decade that you've seen?
Absolutely. Two great questions. I'll address the first one right now. And typically the average dentist that is out of dental school for, I would say, as early as 3 years, but that's still even a little too soon. But traditionally 5 to 7 years, mm-hmm. That's when they get the itch to really open their practice. They start looking 3 years out of school.
Yeah.
But 5 years is when they get serious about it. And that typically is the key marker. The unique thing about it is, you look at what the debt load is when a dentist comes out of school, they get intimidated by that. And then they kind of settle into a practice. They pay down a little bit of debt. They buy what I consider their first professional car. They start looking at homes. And that's when year 5 hits. And at that point, that's kind of a fork in the road. And they decide, okay, is it time to open? Am I tired of working for somebody? And do I want to hang my own shingle? Or do I just want to keep down this path? And, I'm pretty sure nobody's old enough on here to go, yeah, when I graduated dental school in 19 blank, I graduated and I opened my first dental practice. But early on, that's what happened is you graduated dental school and you either moved back home or you gave a different community a shot. And
I was going to say that might be Jeff.
Yeah. There's only 2 of us that graduated in 19 blank.
The 1800s were a wild time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry for setting you up on that one, Jeff.
I was just waiting, like, who's gonna chime in on that one first? I'm like, I'm just going to implicate myself.
Hey, let's throw it out there. Jeff, what year did you graduate dental school?
1991.
Yep.
And something that you said was so true. So I graduated in 91, did a 1-year general practice residency, and by happenstance, not because I was smart, by happenstance, I ended up coming to Conway, South Carolina, which was a fast growing area. And it's only because of, the woman that I met in dental school happened to grow up here. And there happened to be an opportunity here where I could come in and, establish a practice in a fast growing area, which allowed me to pretty much do whatever I wanted. And it was my first lesson in dentistry, which was, don't be stupid, go where there is demand. And what's really interesting, I don't want to take too much of your time because you have so much great information to share with us, is about 5 years down the road, I was already needing associates. Like I was already at a point where, and again, it's not because I was so great. I think I did a good job. I did, the way I set up, all I had to do was not kill anybody and I was going to be okay. but it grew fast, and so I started bringing on associates, and one of the associates I brought on became one of my best friends in the industry, still one of my best friends in the industry. And I said, Jim, I'd love for you to think about coming in with me. We are brothers. We know we get along. We've worked together for a long time. I want you to come in here. And Jim says to me, no, my wife and I really want to open in Charleston. I'm like, that's only an hour and a half away. Are you freaking crazy? You come here and own part of the practice. You will be able to buy a vacation home in Charleston. And he was adamant about wanting to be in Charleston. And I get it. You have to be happy wherever you are. But he went down there and literally had to work for a Medicaid clinic for years to subsidize what he had taken on in Charleston. So just to your point about location, I think that has to be the first consideration when someone thinks about starting their own thing.
I want to piggyback on that just because I identify this in my book. Really, if you look at from a marketing standpoint, there's only two types of dental practices left. Okay. You have community-based dental practices, which is what you went to exactly. The demand is there. Go where the demand is and where the growth is. Grow with the community. A lot of those dentists do the type of dentistry that they want to do. They can choose to be fee for service if they want to. If the demand is that high, you set your price. Okay. The competition's really low. And I'm going to add a couple of nice things about it. The real estate's cheaper there. Okay. The labor is cheaper. The labor can potentially be even more loyal because the scarcity of jobs. There's less jobs available. And so you're not worrying about somebody leaving for $2 down the street. And then the second one is market-based. And that's where you have to penetrate a market. You have to basically elbow your way in and spend, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% on marketing dollars just to get people to come in the door. And so you're supplying a service, but maybe the demand's not there. You have to really aggressively go in there and attack a market to grab your market share. So what a great testament, because you're dead right on that.
Eric, I've got a question. Okay, because you mentioned this briefly, but you kind of brushed over it, and you were talking about how dentists, kind of get out, they start paying down their debt, they start realizing they want to go into practice, the house, the car, whatever. I see a lot of times that dentists are asking, I've got this house, I've got this practice, what do I do first? What is your suggestion?
Depends on what their goals and their needs are. If their happiness is in traveling and their happiness is in living a higher lifestyle, then unfortunately, that's the avenue that they pursue. And I kind of go over this a little bit in my book is, there's just like the supply and demand curve, there's also a curve of happiness and income. If you start sacrificing what your personal goals are for your professional goals, your happiness drops. And everybody on here at some point sacrifice their personal goals for their professional goals, but it's to what level? And so, my suggestion would be, and this isn't for everybody, but if you're a D4 dental student, you want to own your own dental practice, you still need to live like a D4 dental student for the first 3 years that you're out of dental school.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I can't honestly say that I did. I think a cat caught Jeff's tongue. I'm sorry. I apologize.
He has a fur ball.
He's underneath us, like choking himself right now. But I can't say that I did, but I always say I wish I would listen to the things that I tell. I wish I would have listened to the things that I tell the younger dentists now, but I think that's a great piece of sage advice. I mean, I think they also need to set aside money for continuing education too, but then again, I didn't, and so, how do you convey that. And I think you just have to share the knowledge and hope that they listen. But I can't tell you how often we see that question. But the funny thing is that here we are in 2025, and the question posed is, I've got the option to build this practice, but I've also got a bid in on a $1.25 million house. Which one should I do first? You're like, holy shit. I was wishing I could pay for a $218,000 house when I was, 27 years old and 3 years into my practice,
So at that point, you're trying to measure opportunity cost, and that's a losing situation. That's something that they're going to have to discover on their own.
Yeah, I guess so. But I like your advice. I think live like a D4. I love that. I think that's fantastic.
That's if you want to open your own practice immediately.
Yeah. So again, to your point, Eric, is when I was going through all this, we actually purchased a home, like a 1920 cottage style, huge home with an acre of land for $179,000. Right.
And you still live there.
Yeah. And I still live in this home. We've added on to it, but the opportunities go way beyond the opportunity of just having a fast growing area. It's that you've also found an opportunity in an area that you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you can live frugally while not living frugally. I mean, I've never felt like I've given anything up to be here, and yet I will never leave this home,
I used to have a dentist that I worked with that made more money in agricultural than he did turning a handpiece, and he turned a handpiece 4 days a week. He was also on the town council of his town. And so that's the beauty of these smaller towns, these rural areas, is if you choose to operate there, you become a community leader. And the community looks towards those individuals, not just for medical care, but they look for sage advice. They look for wisdom. I mean, there's so many other opportunities in these rural communities for dentistry that, I personally think it's one of the best kept secrets.
So you've got a young dentist that's getting ready to start a practice. Okay. So they've decided that that's what they're going to do. Y'all have nailed it down, and you've helped them find a location. What's the first thing that you tell them that they need to do? I mean, what's the most important and most fundamental aspect of building a practice? Where do you start after you've got the location, after you've decided it's what you're going to do, after it's financially right for them? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, so I'm going to step back just a hair, and one thing that's important is to
stepping back. You're going to
stepping back again. Well, I'm not helping them select the location. So the most important thing that they need to do is build a team of trusted advisors. So they need that real estate individual to negotiate a solid lease for them. They need a banker that they can work with, okay, that's going to be there for them after they open their doors. And so they need to build their trusted advisors. And really, that's an interview process. It's almost like dating somebody. If they get red flags or they don't have that trust, they don't need to work with that person, because if you don't trust somebody, it's going to be a nightmare for you as the dentist, and it's going to be a nightmare for that person too. Honestly, in the very beginning, building your team of trusted advisors is the most important thing that you can do through the development process of creating your own dental practice.
Do you recommend small banks or larger banks?
Depends. I don't want to give. There's a large bank that will give you a blind loan for $750,000 if you have DDS behind your name and your credit is somewhat okay. And if you purchase a certain line of equipment, they'll give you an additional $50,000 backed onto it. It's kind of hard to beat that. But if you can work with a smaller bank, I think it's important, because that's where the relationships really get developed. But this larger bank does an amazing job lending to practitioners. According to SBA, the default rate is less than 2% on a dental loan. Less than 2%.
I feel like I'm living This Is Your Life. And again, not because I was that smart, but because it just happened to be the circumstance that I came into.
Yeah.
But again, coming to a community, a smaller community, it's now a larger community, but a smaller community at the time, I went to several banks, met with people personally, and with the heads of the banks personally. I also looked into one bank that wanted to put me through SBA. I met with another very large bank who was asking my father-in-law to be a co-signer on the note. But I found my community bank that said, you know what, we like you, we'll give you whatever you want this afternoon. They are still my bank. They just financed the new office building that I did. I will always do business with them, because from that point on, it became, I want to buy this piece of equipment. All I had to do was make a call and say, hey, here's what I want. They're like, go ahead and order it.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all I ever had to do in practice. And I can't tell you what that means as far as, have I paid maybe a half a point more sometimes? Yeah, I don't care though. These guys have, tough payroll period. What do you need, Jeff? We got your payroll covered. Yeah, and there's something to be said about those trusted advisors that always have your back and know that you're going to fulfill your end of the obligation, and maintaining those kinds of relationships, which is what Midwest is all about. And really what companies that are privately owned like that are all about, is just maintaining these relationships that someone always has your back. And what a stress, I shouldn't say stress-free, but lower stress environment that creates in practice.
So that's one of the keys to my book. It's not solving everybody's problems, and it doesn't have all the answers in it, of course, in 182 pages. But the concept and the idea is to reduce stress. You're never going to eliminate stress, because it depends on what a person's stress tolerance level is. The other thing I want to kind of go back to on what you said, going back there again, Chad, is relationships do matter. And I agree with you 100% on that. And, a lot of times when you become transactional with those relationships, maybe somebody doesn't get a phone call back. And the reason why your bank calls you back is because you fulfill your end of the bargain, and you're providing they're providing a service to you, and you're paying your bills. And that's not very hard. So kudos for you.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful to the relationship with a small bank. The smaller committees, the shorter turnaround on decisions. And I just totally cut off JB. So JB, go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. I didn't know, Eric, if you had a strategy. I get asked this question a lot when I'm looking at equipment. How do I plan the order of operations? Like, what are my first investments? Then what is tier 2, tier 3, tier 4? Yep. And also, this is super geeky and dorky, and nobody talks about compressors and vacuums and that type of thing. But like, how do you also stage the investments in that as your practice is going to grow? So my own experience was I bought a smaller compressor and vacuum that got me to OP4. But then as soon as the tipping point happened for OP4, OP5 meant not just another chair, but also new infrastructure for the practice as well. But that was, a couple years down the road. And how do you help doctors understand that strategy? How do you help them plan their investments in what they should have in their practice and sort of stage that over time?
Yeah, great question. So I'm gonna assume that we're working with a general dentist, just because I do a lot of general, a lot of pediatric, a few surgeons, and a few orthodontists. So let's just assume a general dentist on that. If it's a 6 operatory practice, I typically recommend, and it depends on the type of dentistry they're doing. If they're doing airway and implantology, I would recommend 2 operatories, a CBCT, and a higher level of technology. If they're going into a competitive marketplace, like here in Texas, North Texas, we have Frisco, Texas, and the demands from the patient are higher than they would be if it was in Hallsville, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. And so at that point, you're going to at least want to have 2 operatories of equipment. It's nice to have 3 just for that overflow room, but you can add that quickly after. I personally, when I sell equipment, if I feel like the dentist is going to scale pretty quick in that location, so if they're going to fulfill all the operatories, I'm going to sell them the compressor and the vacuum that they need up front, because they should typically hit it within probably 5 years. Okay, if they're going to fulfill their building in 5 years. If they're not, the life cycle of mechanical equipment is 12 to 15 years. So if I feel like, and this is all, again, it's opportunity cost, so it's hard to weigh this, but if I feel like they're going to have a slower start and a slower build, then maybe I do sell them a little bit lower volume compressor and vacuum, because by year 8, they're probably 4 years away from the end of life of that product anyway. And so that, I mean, that's really is, I mean, if you feel like you're going to scale and move fast within 5 years and fulfill everything, then you buy the compressor and the vacuum that you need year 1. And then when it comes to operatories, a lot of dentists love 3 operatories on the start. They really do. But they also like to have a CBCT. They also like to have a 3D printer and a scanner. And so if they're integrating a higher level of technology, I do recommend sacrificing that 3rd operatory for that technology, because if they don't, and they don't integrate that technology in the beginning, the chances of them integrating it 5 years later is lower, because they have their operational procedures in place.
Is it safe to say in 2025 though that should almost be mandatory, that you know, to have that certain level of technology, to be, you know, certainly at least to have the 3D printer, to have a digital scanner, to have a CBCT. I just, you know, I think we've reached a point where there's a minimum amount of technology that needs to be in the dental office just to be taken seriously at this point. And I could be dead wrong in this, but I'm curious to hear your opinion on that.
The first thing I'll say is a CBCT. Absolutely. If you're doing any type of endo, any type of implants, 100%. But let's say you're not even doing those procedures. The amount of information that you grab with a CBCT is so much greater than a 2D X-ray, a pano. I believe, and I'm going off of poor man's memory here, but I believe it's like 54% of diagnostics occur with a probe and a 2D X-ray. But once you integrate CBCT, it goes to like 78%. And then, of course, if you throw in, and this is why it's out there, if you throw AI, that's, you know, you upgrade your product to an AI-based product that also highlights the problematic areas, you know, that increases even more. So, yes, the demand for technology is there, you know, but I think it would definitely be a CBCT and a scanner. Scanner is just going to help you reduce your costs over time.
100%.
And, you know, I mean, there's no reason not to have it. There's no reason not to have it. 3D printing, I think there's some great things that are there. I think they do amazing things. Unless you're printing your own night guards, you know, it's difficult to really sell the concept of a 3D printer. And I have a lot of clients that use 3D printers and I love them. But, you know, I think with 3D printers, it really starts with night guards to really make it financially worth their time.
I think it highlights too, Jeff, the importance, what we've sort of been dancing around a little bit. I have 2 practices. One is a suburb of a big city, but it was definitely in a growth opportunity area. So definitely was hitting that really lovely sweet spot. The second practice I started was in a super rural community, very agriculture. But it is also an up and coming. It will be a suburb of the current suburb that I opened up in the first one. What I will tell you, or for people who are listening, the rural communities give you so much more freedom to bring that technology on as you can afford it, because their expectations are often very different. And even small investments in technology are so exciting to them, not because they're ignorant, but because they're so used to going outside of their community to get access to that same type of technology. So they get so pumped that they can just go 5 miles down the road to get that level of care versus having to go to the more metropolitan areas. So again, you know, a big shout out, push, recommendation for doctors that if they have gotten their house in order and they can afford to grow those practices with their community and over time, they're also going to financially be able to bring in the things that they want, need, enjoy, bring, pleasure to their practice alongside with their patients, or patients get excited about those investments, as opposed to going into those Frisco communities, those highly competitive markets where the expectation is day one, you will have all of those same types of technology that I can get to the 17 dentists that are in the exact same shopping district. I've been to Frisco, guys. I don't know why there are so many dentists and donut shops. I can't actually quantify why you need so many donut shops and dentists in any shopping center, but the expectation is going to be a lot higher.
That's Charleston as well. I mean,
donut shops too.
Yeah. What's that?
Donut shops too.
Yeah, there's a lot of donut shops. Maybe not as many as Frisco.
Yeah. Hey, we like our donuts here in Texas.
You do, and that was an underknown piece of information I didn't know till my sister moved to Salina. So
I want to add one thing to what you said. It's interesting. So to be competitive in those competitive marketplaces, it's important to have technology, but a lot of that technology is underutilized. Then you go to the rural communities, and you have that general dentist, that family dentist that's doing endo, that might be doing implant placement. It's a must to have that. And it's not a must to be competitive.
Right.
It's a must to be clinically competent.
That's a great point.
It really is amazing.
That's a great point.
I love that. And it's funny because we're Conway, South Carolina, we're like 14 miles from Myrtle Beach. And this was the town that Myrtle Beach used to make fun of, like, oh, they're from Conway. And now Conway is kind of now more of the artsy, cultural, everyone is moving here. And now Aner, South Carolina, another 12 miles to the west, which you couldn't pay a dentist to go and move out there. They used to try to recruit dentists to come out there just to open one practice out there. And they would have been successful. They absolutely would have been successful. But nobody wanted to be there. And now we're seeing offices just start to pop up left and right. And it's incredible watching that, but it's also been really neat watching some of the younger dentists, the couple that went over there and said, I'm going to take a chance on this community. And they're doing incredibly. Mm-hmm. And just as you said, JB, growing at your own pace, doing exactly the kind of dentistry that they want to do, doing the things they're comfortable with, sending out what they don't, and taking on the technology one little piece at a time, not because they have to, but because they want to. And it's really neat when they do.
Mm-hmm. When you're a business owner that grows within a community, as the community grows, your equity is multiplied. If you're a dentist that goes into a community that, let's say, is already kind of, the growth is already happening, yeah, you could still carve out a business and do well. But if you're there maybe 1 or 2 years before everybody else, the amount of equity that you have before any competition comes in is so difficult to compete against. I actually consider those legacy dentists, and I see them in the communities around here all the time, in Allen, Plano, even in Frisco. I work with a dentist that started there in 1997 before all the growth, and he's killing it.
Yeah, that's a really long time ago.
Wow. He's He's like really young compared to someone on the show.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're a legacy dentist now.
I'm a legacy dentist.
You're a legacy dentist.
That's a good word for it.
Certificate.
Better than elderly.
Well, Ed, I put up the link to your book, and we'll definitely post that again tomorrow or this evening on our site. But You know, as we come to a close here, just in a nutshell, your standard words of wisdom. I know if anybody has them, you do. But your standard words of wisdom to a young dentist or somebody looking to start up, just what would you give them? Just your abbreviated version, I guess.
Okay, I got 3 things.
Start
with the supply rep, because once you open your doors, the supply rep's the one that's calling on you, not the equipment rep.
And who do you recommend for that? Do you recommend Scott Bolt, or would there be somebody else within the company that you recommend?
You know what? I would recommend actually anybody that works for our company and anybody that works for an ADA company.
Wow, way to paint him in a corner, Chad.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
No, seriously, if you bring that up, the beauty of an independent dental company, like the companies that are involved in ADA, like Midwest Dental, Atlanta Dental, Nashville Dental, Getsy Dental, is a client is a client and is a friend. They're not just a source of revenue. They're not just a sale. You know, a lot of the sales reps that work for these independent companies have been in the industry for a long time. And when you have that amount of knowledge and equity that's working with you, it's invaluable. It really is. So start with the supply rep. Get 2 mentors. You need 2 mentors through the process. You need a business mentor that's not a dentist, because the concept of differentiating, you don't want to do what the other dentist is doing down the street. Find somebody that owns a business or is high up in a business and ask them to mentor you as you build your dental practice, because you're going to have a financial question, an accounting question, a marketing question that you'd like to run by them. And then the second mentor is a dentist that's either 5 to 10 years older, and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a mentor for 1 year. It's not a paid for position. I'm going to buy you coffee and all the hamburgers that you can have, but I want to run the clinical things by you that I haven't seen yet, that I'm unsure of. And that's going to actually bridge a great relationship. I've seen dentists that do that, stay involved with them. And the beauty of it is they can reciprocate too with technology, because the dentists that are coming out of school now are working with probably more technology than somebody that's come out of school, 20 years prior. And then the final thing is, and this is a little bit brushes on what Jeff had mentioned, is, as a business owner, I don't care what business you own, if you have a relationship with your bank, and especially if it's a community bank, the most important thing you can do is open up a line of credit. There's typically an administrative fee that's pretty low. Okay. It's under $300 a year to maintain this line of credit. But the beauty is the longer that you're in business, that line of credit grows. So your first year, it might be $5,000, $10,000, but by year 10, 15, or 20, it'll be several $100,000s of dollars. And that's an immediate line of credit that you can tap into if your back is ever up against the wall.
That is very sage advice. And one of the things that I would say is that administrative fee, if you have the line of credit tapped, it's a little bit higher as far as interest is concerned.
No, absolutely.
No, but what a great piece of advice, and you're right. You pay it, it grows, and it's a wonderful thing to have. And we certainly have that with the bank across the street as well. So great advice.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on. I look forward to seeing you guys. And I think we got about 6 months.
Yeah. We got to talk about Aspire, right?
Very
soon. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already ready.
I'm ready to go.
Cabo San Lucas, everyone. Cabo. We are going to Cabo. Please look it up. adagroup.org.
Want to drop the link, Chad?
Yes, I will.
Once you get done with Jeff's fur ball in your nose.
I'm sneezing. Yeah. Hey, you had to leave to sneeze earlier. So.
I did.
Hey, while you guys are dropping knowledge, I'll be partying on the beach. I'll after you guys drop knowledge, but there's going to be a nice little party on the beach next year.
Eric,
I can't wait.
I'm not dropping knowledge this year. I've got a little bit of announcing duty, and beyond that, I'm on the beach with you. Buddy.
Party on the beach, man.
Yeah.
I'm bringing the karaoke machine.
Ooh. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, geez. Amarillo by Morning? I don't know.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Chad over here is just dying laughing.
And sneezing.
And sneezing.
And sneezing. Yeah.
You do it
Well,
so quietly, though. Did you mute?
He muted
I
himself.
muted myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could.
so-
I in my time of desperation, I could not find the mute button.
Well, you were choking on ice or something. But anyhow, I think as we close, one of the things that I want to bring up is I don't think we gave them enough justice tonight. But one of the reasons we're so close to Eric is because Eric's group is a proud member of ADA, which is the American Independent Dental Alliance. It is a wonderful group for independent dentists to build community, to learn from each other, to share, commiserate, do everything that community does. Education is a big backbone of this community. And I would say that if you're looking to get into this, not only will you build a community and save a lot of money on your supplies, services, equipment, and so on and so forth throughout your practice, but you have a great opportunity to learn what it's all about at Aspire, which will be in Los Cabos at the Hyatt Ziva Resort, January 26th through 29th. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
All right. And the four of us will be there. We hope that all of you will be there. And if you would like to learn more, please reach out to one of us. Look on our Facebook page. There's tons of information about ADA. And if you just want to reach out to one of us privately, we'd be happy to connect you all. But it's been one of the best things I've ever done for my practice. I get to work with great people like Eric. I know Jeff is also a proud member with Atlanta Dental. I'm with Midwest Dental. So love to have every one of you as a member of our group, and we're stronger together. That's all I've got for tonight. So y'all have a wonderful evening.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Thanks, Eric.